So what we're looking at here is pH-JPEG starting up in a modded true solo, 6x2 true solo, with burning hell and volatile bullets. pH is using, I believe, aggressive venting, along paired with incendiary grenades and obviously volatile bullets. So I guess after we take a note of his loadout, we probably want to discuss what are the key differences between modded true solos and modded team play. Jen, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. In team play, you generally have some splits between the classes of who does objectives, who makes holds, who pushes forward. These distinctions are generally determined by class, which helps you figure out what you're going to do. But in solo, all of it's on you, regardless of what class you are. So you just have to play to your
Right.
class's strengths to complete the objective or kill bug in whatever is the most
Right.
efficient way possible.
Yeah. In that sense, true solos can be a lot or very difficult because all of the responsibilities now fall to a single person, and that's you. You are responsible for your own survival, and as well as pushing objectives and gathering nitra.
Yeah.
So that's something to be aware of. And another thing to be aware of in true solos, so maybe we would like to discuss some key 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 strategies to take account of in true solos. So one of them is probably trying to main strike a balance between good pacing and trying to survive at the same time.
Yeah. The good pacing, since all of the objective is on you, you kind of get to determine your own pacing, and it can be more difficult to manage. But if you can push your pacing, you can make it so you don't have to survive as long. But it comes with you have to be able to stay on top of the bugs and as they come on you while you push that pacing. So it can be more difficult to stay alive. But if you
Right.
focus on survival, you too much, you could let your pacing stagnate and you'd be in the mission for far longer than you'd need to be and end up either running out of nitra or just being
Dying. Yeah.
unfortunately positioned that one time.
Right. Also, another thing to be aware of is in modern true solos, the pacing also ties very heavily to if you have any starting nitro or not and the nitro resupply cost. So say you are in like 6x2 times with 60 nitro resupplies. If you have some starting nitro, it can make pacing that much easier in the before or during the first swarm.
Yeah, especially in because mining missions, even though they usually have a guaranteed nitro vein, it's actually not quite guaranteed that you'll even get an entire resupply from that nitro vein.
Yeah, it's very important to get that first resupply done. Yeah. Okay,
So
I think that's enough talking in the
yeah,
beginning. We should probably get started.
I agree. Let us start.
None can stand before us, rock and stone, yeah!
Yeah. A first decision to make, like immediately after landing, is do I want to go through dirt as soon as possible or stay behind in the first room to gather some resources, including nitra and potentially the objective? Jin, what's your take on the balance between that?
I would say in some ways it depends on the pacing you're looking to achieve and the difficulty that you're on. If you're on a difficulty that's like really hard for you, it can be favorable to just try to push through the cave and aggressively pace so that on the seeds where you have more fortunate nitro generation, you take advantage of that and you don't have
Right.
the mission ends sooner.
So on like in this context, because we're trying to introduce like modded true solos, or rather the video's context is for potentially newer true solo players, and we're probably assuming 6x2 like at 40 or 60 nitro. I would say it's probably a good strategy to scout out the starting room a little bit and collect some of the starting nitro and objective theirs, especially in 200 Morkite, because in my experience the starting room often has uh, nearly enough or even enough for resupply.
Yes, usually the starting room does have enough for at least one resupply.
And that is
Usually
very
only
good
one.
to yeah, that is very good to help you prepare for the first announced one.
We can see
And on
PH
six
is
by two, yeah, it depends on the difficulty, but on 6x2, you usually have time to scout out the starting room.
I got it!
Yes. And it can be another thing where if you're trying to get a little more comfortable on the difficulty, you'd want to scout out the nitrous so you can take your first swarm in these the first tunnels. Because your pacing you may or may not be able to push all the way through the first cave.
Okay, so this is very good. But in a pre-setting of zip lines where you can use them to maneuver around downwards or upwards tunnels are very good.
Yes. It's especially
Swarmers,
useful.
however, are your worst enemy potentially. If you don't have a good loadout if you don't have a loadout that's good at dealing with them.
Yeah.
This resupply is put down at a good place. It's not too exposed to cave entrance, and it's still accessible for the person.
It's a
pH-JPEG.
little low, though. It would have been better if it was closer to the top of the zipline.
Yeah.
If you get a shell back,
In this case, though, PH knows that it's swarm, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter that much. But in other case, it can matter a lot.
yeah,
There's also another zipline set up here, alongside the resupply. That is very good because sometimes you can hop up the tunnel, and then use a zipline to zip down quickly, creating some distance between you and potential, for example, slashers.
yeah,
Peach could also avoid taking some damage here against the swarm by going on top of the zipline. You don't have to be standing on the ground for this particular kind of swarm.
yeah.
We do see that Peach takes a bit of damage here from all the chip damage.
Swarmers can be kind of difficult without really hard counter builds like Wave Cooker or Sticky Fuel because of the large numbers and how quickly they move.
I personally find that I don't really like going aggressively vent on swarms because I find that like the area of safety created by a vent is kind of overshadowed by the downtime you have on the hot bullets. Oh, not hot bullets, sorry. The
I think it's probably better overall to be using the vents because in between the vents, there's not that much downtime, and if you focus on repositioning, that can help you keep away from the swarmers.
Also, a good tip for like countering swarms is actually try to find a tight choke or like a tight tunnel where you can funnel all the swarmers.
Yeah.
Going out in the open in the swarm is like not ideal.
No, because they surround you very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, here you can see PH trying to take out the breeder, which is also another interesting choice. For some loadouts, you can easily deal with NATO sites, so it doesn't matter as much if you can take out a breeder or not. But in this case, I think because PH has a good loadout that can deal or kill the NATO site quickly without wasting too much ammo, it's definitely worth taking out the NATO site. Taking out the breeder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the common mistake people make when they first start on true solos is, unlike teams, there's no one else to free you from a cave leech or to help you clear cave leeches unless you have heightened senses. So it's always good to look up in unknown caves.
Oh yeah, especially. That's one of the most dangerous parts of true solo is pushing new caves.
Yep. There are some loadouts that can help counter that. For example, bullet hell, but then that comes with its own caveats.
Yeah, definitely comes with its own caveats there.
Yeah. Another important choice to opt on making these kind of caves is that do you want to push the dirt, proceed to the next area, or try to stay around and look for the objective a little bit? In 200 Morkite, it's we kind of know that the last room will have most of the objective, but it's not always guaranteed, and sometimes it's good to look out for objectives in the previous cave like these.
Yeah, in this case, I would make note that PH more than likely should have just gone straight for the dirt, not come down to the side of the cave.
Yeah.
they already found a Morkite vein on the other side, gave them more than an inventory of Morkite. But more than likely, there would have been enough of Morkite in the final room. So
Yeah.
because
I
they
feel like-
didn't pace aggressively, here,
Now they have announced one.
they have to deal with another swarm before they can move on to the next cave.
And do note that I think PH might not have enough for a resupply here, or the other resupply is not in reach.
The other resupply is not immediately in reach for sure.
Also worth noting that if you move around, spawns can try to spawn in your around your previous snapshot, its location snapshot. So sometimes it might happen that if you keep moving, spawns can actually spawn directly on top of you, which is potentially dangerous.
Yes. Though usually it's a little better than being flanked.
Yeah, that is true. So it's just something you have to calculate the risk versus reward of. Using dash here is good to avoid getting surrounded.
Yep. The unique advantage of Gunner is if you need that nitrate, you can shield to get it.
Yeah. So it's also interesting because usually in true solos, with Gunner or any other classes, a strategy is to push forward or push backwards and kite the swarm along with you and slowly chip them down.
Yes.
This is good because you don't want to get surrounded from all sides in one direction. So if you can push one side, you can try to do everything behind you.
And as long as the bugs are on one side of you, it's much, much easier to kite and avoid damage.
Yeah. Web splitters can be uniquely dangerous because they slow you down a little bit and they obscure your view.
Yes. That's why web spitters are one of the higher priority targets amongst the waves.
Compared to Gunner in team play with volatile bullets, in true solo your priorities can be a little bit different. Your first priority is to survive, not necessarily to kill things. So sometimes you might just even want to cycle stun on things and not even kill them.
Yes. With the fire
With the
effect,
yeah.
you want to try and burn as many things as possible to whittle through the grunts. And with aggressive venting, you want to try and use the downtime of aggressive venting to pull out the revolver and pick off any larger targets that are extremely dangerous. Because the fear will give you safety from the grunts. And you get very limited time where your minigun is... you get very limited time for most of the cycle to actually pull out the revolver.
Yeah. And always something to keep in mind in these kind of tunnels is you always want to make sure you have an escape path or a plan for escape. Even if you're like in these kind of type tunnels, especially when you're kind of in these type tunnels, you do not want to get stuck.
No, you do
Getting
not
stuck is a death sentence. Yeah. These type of tight tunnels are particularly good for aggressive venting because you can group bugs together and make use of the aggressive venting AoE effect very efficiently. Although do be careful of Praetorians spinning you around a corner or around even through a wall.
Praetorians.
It's nasty.
They do Praetorian things.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, if you take stun on minigun, it's always very good to use with Burning Hell is to stun the Praetorian, ignite the Praetorian and stun it, and then you can just casually dance around its back and use volatile bullets on its ass.
Yes, and you get that nice weak spot bonus.
Okay, so Peach here has decent pacing. Half of the objective is done. Plenty of nitro and resupply. I assume it's on 60.
Not sure.
Not sure.
60 doesn't
ideally,
seem
Peach wants
unreasonable.
to be pushing the dirt right now. This is a bit slow.
Now kill the rest of them.
Okay, so at this point, there's a choice to make. Yeah, does he call down the new resupply, push to dirt, or go back to the old one? To maintain pacing, he probably wants to go to dirt ASAP.
In this scenario, I would have shields. I would have gone right through the dirt. I would have tried to call the resupply as close to the next cave as I could have gotten away.
I would agree with you because PH just took announced swarm. You know that announced swarm won't be there for a while, for a good amount of downtime. So you can just try to push aggressively through the dirt.
Yeah. And with Gunner having shields, even if you get hit by a wave on your way down to the next cave, you can usually buy enough time with just kiting for the resupply to land, put a shield on the resupply, and then you have your resupply without issue.
Okay, so when you're this is just like we talked about. It's very important to keep the pacing up. Otherwise, you end up with tons of announced swarms to deal with.
Yep.
If PH had gone through that announced swarm, that dirt tunnel faster, PH could have called the resupply, made more progress, and called the resupply in the other through the dirt tunnel.
And by now, PH might have been able to be in the third room.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, in true solos, it's important to consider your options against bulk detonators, because if you don't deal with them, they will just keep chasing you around, and it takes a lot of attention, and also takes a lot of your escape options away.
Yeah, something also worth considering with bulk detonators, especially, is where do you detonate them?
Yeah.
I think PH made a little bit of a mistake here, detonating it right where his resupply and one of his better kiting areas was.
Yep. So something to be keenly aware of in 1 or 2 solos is not only how and when you push, or where do you push towards, it is also critically important that you have a known good escape path. So if you're towards the end of the cave, your drop pod will very almost certainly spawn towards the beginning of the cave. You want to know where you can pass to go towards the drop pod when you don't have mining options, or rather good mining options.
This is a very regrettable grabber moment.
Yeah. So one potential counter to this kind of situation is to take hiding senses over iron will, but that means you don't have iron will. So it's always a trade-off to consider as well.
Yeah.
So Peach is actually lucky, very lucky here, that the bulk detonator is dead, and the grabber doesn't bring him towards the bulk detonator.
Or any other spitting enemies.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, a lot of times, not sometimes, a little bit of luck is required to win a true solo.
A lot of times. Yeah, grabbers are a big luck roll.
Personally, I find that I prefer heightened senses over iron will, because it helped me to avoid some of the non-ideal RNG failure states.
Yeah. PH double dips here. This is probably a really good idea because they're completely out of loot.
It's also sometimes a good idea because you know that you won't be coming back to this resupply for a while. It's better just to top it off.
Yeah.
This is not very ideal fighting out in the open like this, but yeah, I guess there's not too many enemies and it's fine.
Yeah.
So whenever you anywhere you are, you want to have some sort of escape path, preferably more than just one, if even possible. Good use of power attacks, oppressors can really mess you up because they kind of block bullets for other enemies.
I have to ask, was that oppressor particularly rumbly?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. So it wasn't just me.
There's some audio quality issues, I think.
That might have been it. It just sounded particularly ferocious.
Yeah. Well, Peach is kind of lucky here because he has volatile bullets, which can easily dispatch of Praetorians and other tanky enemies like oppressors. But if you have a loadout that is not very good at dealing with those things, it might make your life very challenging.
Yeah. But it's also worth noting that if you have a loadout that can apply any kind of slow or damage over time, you can commonly kind of just leave them behind.
Yeah, that is always an option, as long as the oppressor doesn't block your escape path.
Yeah. On knowing where your escape path is, something that's also useful to note about is in solo you got to keep track of your terrain. You got to know where you can kite safely to take holds. Loops in particular can be very powerful in solo because they allow you to continually retreat effectively, allowing yourself to trade ground for kills without actually running all the way up the cave and making you further and further away from the objective.
Lock and load it.
But in that case, it's always a kind of a concern because always a consideration to make. So even if for survival purposes you have to go back, that's completely acceptable in true solos. So your first priority is to survive.
Yeah.
Resupply order. Just take your sweet. Roger that.
I'm a little bit curious PH calls the resupply here because I guess the next announced wave is soon, but I feel like he hasn't made a lot of progress.
Proactive zipline usage.
Yeah,
Very
that is good.
Time to deposit.
I guess that's kind of good because this is a known good location that PH can use to fight around. So even if he pushes forward, he has a good known fallback location with the resupply already down.
Minor criticism is that when Molly was nearby, you should try to focus on depositing the nitro that you have before you go and mine the nitro you can't hold.
That is true.
Since you know,
also a good tip, a good tip in true solo is to always be wary of Molly. You don't want to waste time trying to wait for Molly to deposit minerals. That's like a downtime that's unnecessary and annoying.
yeah,
And also puts more pressure on your nitro situation. Also, this is also good because Peach is prepping his fighting area to get rid of some environmental hazards. Now with those electric crystals gotten rid of, he has a better area to fight in. Otherwise, he could get stuck on those electric crystals, and if for some unfortunate combination, he might go down. I can't say I'm the particularly strong or enthusiastic fan of this fighting area.
it is very constricted.
Yeah.
Since it's not a great idea to run towards the electric crystals.
Because in the off chance you get stuck in them, you can get like tri-jawed and you take a chunk of damage and even go down.
You just kind of die.
Yeah. I think PH recognizes that unfortunate terrain and just goes back up the tunnel here.
Yeah,
Good
it was
shield.
also at a local minimum, so it's a very, very good place to die by shellback.
Yeah. Yeah, if possible, you always want to fight at the top of the tunnels and avoid local minima, just because of shellbacks and how disruptive they are.
Yeah.
This is a very good choke for, aggressive venting though.
Yeah. The kind of like the best chokes for venting is corners.
Yeah. So if there are like tanky enemies that come down the tunnel, sometimes it might be even wise to use a shield just to push them back and reclaim some ground.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's not only good to use shield to protect yourself, but you can also use shields to retake and reclaim ground as you fight.
Yeah. And with aggressive venting, you can kind of do the same if you push forward right before hitting the
This
vent.
is not ideal because PH knows that they're Praetorians and they will likely split, so that's kind of dangerous, and he took a lot of damage for that.
Yeah, it's quite dangerous.
And if that were a oppressor, that might have been really bad because he might get like store stuck on the tunnel and then he can't move.
Yeah. No, don't go back through the dirt.
Okay, I see why this took some time.
So PH is out of ammo
But
because
PH
they were pushed away
has
from the
enough-
resupply.
PH has enough for 2 resupplies. In that case, you really need to push forward. Hold another resupply in the forward location. Oh, but he also already dropped the resupply in said forward location.
Yes. So
Oh, he could've
PH
just
went
went
back
at
for
it,
resupply because they had completely run out of minigun ammo.
Yeah. That is something to be aware of as well. You never want to run completely dry of any of your weapons. If possible, always keep it above half. If possible.
Speaking of oppressors,
Yeah. Annoying because, yeah.
Shield Spear can be very useful for pushing past enemies which like to physically block you.
In that case, it's also a very good usage because otherwise it'll take too long for PH to pace through this area he already visited.
Yeah.
But that usage is also a risk because, as
now,
you can see,
now
you can
PH
get
does
a
not have a
surprise.
shield.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
he's getting
yep.
spit, and there goes the Iron Will. And now
much
he
I
needs
saw.
to worry about where his resupply is.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think the mistake here was actually originally not pushing fast enough.
Mm-hmm. The
And
resupply and the
going
local
back,
minimum
going
also
back to
isn't
the
helping.
old resupply, yeah, that was the mistake. Because now he has to call another one.
Supply pod launched. Better stand back.
And he's got a bulk detonator to worry about now.
Yeah. And on top of all that, he's going to get an announce wave relatively soon again.
Yep.
I would have taken 2 just to make sure I can push forward fast enough.
And I'm on the fence about that since they actually have probably what I guess to be about 70% mega ammo at the time you're taking. But
Yeah, in that case, because I know that I want to push forward and make progress, I won't be. It's very unlikely that we'll ever come back here again. So I think it might be worth taking 2 resupplies, but that's obviously another decision to make.
yeah.
Although leaving like 1 or 2 resupplies at these kind of resupply stations is actually also very useful during escapes, because sometimes you might suddenly become low during escape path, and it's very nice to have a convenient resupply out in the open somewhere that you can access. That is a mistake.
Yeah, so this is, you should, especially in solo situations where bulks will only ever be aggroed on you, you should be using incendiary grenades for bulk ignites, because relying on the fire cone is really dangerous.
Also, this is kind of a deja vu moment, because I feel like we've been here before, fighting the same swarm.
Yeah.
Nitro's been withdrawn. A supply pod is inbound.
Now that's 2
think this is just
resupplies
6x2
suspended on one back, yeah.
So it's not even Diablo. But, so even though you definitely a few bulks so far.
Yeah.
I think that was the second bulk.
Yeah, this so far does feel like a little bit of a pacing problem. I would even go so far as if Peach is possible, Peach might even want to push forward to the other resupply that he put down further down the cave.
Yeah, knowing that you've got health and ammo there, right, if you get there.
And if you push forward like that, it's more likely the enemies will spawn behind you.
Yeah.
Keep fighting, team. You're almost through the wave.
I really don't like fighting out in the open like this, because you get no cover from flying enemies and spitters.
And venting can't cover the ceilings if it's too large of a room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, if
something
possible,
might be to note
is
is sometimes it's just kind of worth like leaving the stragglers behind, let them catch up to you, so
You
that you can just
you
keep
don't
moving
actually
forward.
have to kill everything. Like on top of surviving, your other primary objective is the objective. Killing bugs is just something that's kind of necessary to keep yourself alive, but not necessary for progression.
Yeah. That shellback was
Shellbacks
nearly
in
invisible.
close spaces are extremely dangerous.
Extremely. And we have multiples.
So Peach has made a lot of space here. I would have just gotten book it. Is that what Peach does?
No.
Okay.
Now, something else to note is, yes, the bulk does have its
Has
own
created a
terrain.
tunnel, but that's always kind of dangerous.
But since we know where the bulk came from, so it's actually basically risk-free in this case.
In that case, that's kind of lucky for PH.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go up the zip line through the third tunnel again.
Yeah, it's much more
This is
accessible.
kind of funny though. I would have taken a resupply here.
Yeah, out of incendiary grenades, especially if we're pushing new cables. Half health, not too bad, but could always just take one.
I killed the loot bug, and I'm not
Also, I would have felt very concerned about pacing if I were PH at this moment of time. I feel like I need to push much faster than this.
Yeah,
He is doing
though
objective.
part of pacing, part of knowing what pace you should take is a decision based on how much nitro you have in the tank as well.
Yeah, that
PH
is.
still has another resupply. They can
Is it 60 or 40?
40.
Okay, never mind. That makes it much easier.
rock and roll. I need the mule right here, right
So it's like faster pacing is definitely better, but as long as you have nitro, you can sort of get away with it.
time to
Well,
Yeah.
nitro and favorable terrain to kite on.
Right. So the consideration there is you don't want to pace too fast that you're kind of making it impossible for you to keep yourself alive, but you also don't want to be pacing too slow that you run out of nitro. Where exactly to strike a balance there is mostly your ability to not make mistakes, too many mistakes during a period of time, as well as how much nitro you have.
Yeah. Sort of a judgment call.
Yeah.
Drop pod has arrived. Retrieve
Dangerous.
Going back to the drop pod is also a very, very difficult part of true solo. You don't want to rush too fast, and you don't have ammo, you get trapped in between enemies, you get stuck in weird terrain that you can't escape.
grenade. You're a stain on the floor.
Often, though, you can leave enemies behind like PH did. If you have convenient zipline set up, you can also have keep a lot of distance between you and your enemies.
Shield charged.
Yeah, as long as you focus on moving forward, you can usually outpace most of the bugs.
Yeah.
Nectera are the most dangerous in this case because they move much faster.
Yeah, do be wary that Macteras and Spitters and such can knock you off zipline, so that's always something to be aware of.
4 minutes.
Yes. Ziplines can be actually quite dangerous if you aren't able to slide down them.
Yeah. Also, something that kind of that's a little bit of RNG is where the dropout spawns. If you get like something in a dropout in the wall or in the sky, sometimes you just have to kind of accept your fate.
Yeah, it can be where the drop pod lands can be sort of a mission fail state all on its own.
Yeah. But calling down the resupply here is good. PH knows that the dropper won't be opening for quite a while because Molly's still far behind. So calling down the resupply here is very nice to keep himself alive.
And related to that, sometimes if you know Molly's like really far away, there's going to be a lot of time between you getting up to the drop pod and Molly getting to the drop pod. You can pace yourself as you go up, kind of defeat the bugs as you go, knowing that you need to wait for Molly. So that you don't get to the drop pod and then have the whole wave of pressure that you've been leaving behind hit you all at once.
Yeah, that is true. So, for example, PH had a loop back there, back in the previous room. He could have kept looping the enemy spawns around the loop and wait for Molly to get in the drop pod, wait for the drop pod door to be open first before he even attempts to go near the drop pod. Because as always, it should be noted that enemies can spawn directly on top of the drop pod, and that's kind of annoying.
They can be very dangerous too. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, the mission was a success, even though there was an iron will used.
Yep. 30-minute pacing is long for 200 more kite. think generally you can decent pacing can get it done in. Well, I mean,
15 to
depends on
20.
your pacing, I guess. Really, breakneck pacing can go in about 8 minutes,
Yeah.
anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes. But much more average pacing is going to be closer to 12 to 17 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Obviously, that kind of pacing takes a lot of practice.
Yes. And some caves just aren't nice.
Yeah,